How did you become involved in this side of life? Because it's a very specific area, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a very specific area, and I feel like it's an incredible privilege, actually. It started way back in the day. I'd never heard of the word doula, and I was actually a natural therapist. I was doing a degree in Chinese medicine, which I completed, and acupuncture, and I was also a Reiki practitioner and teacher. And so through my work with Reiki was really what got me working alongside people who were terminally ill, very ill and dying. And I was there just, often Reiki got me in the door. So I might be there sitting beside a bedside supporting a family, or I'd be listening to someone who was grieving, or they might say, well, we want to take mum home to die. And I'd say, well, I know where we can hire a hospital bed. I can help you do that. And really, while Reiki was what got me there, all I was actually doing was responding to the need in front of me. So, for example, it might have been a practical need. How do I get mum home and take care of her at home? It might have been an emotional need, a spiritual need. So I just started responding. And that to me is the heart of doula, is responding to the need in front of you in that moment. And from a holistic perspective, might be mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, any of the above.
I've spoken to nurses who work in palliative care, and 2-1, they all say it is the greatest privilege that you can have to work with someone and to help ease their passage out of life.
I would absolutely agree with that. It can be a challenging space as well, but the challenging often is to do with the human element. So, for example, families. Conflict, unresolved life issues, things like that. But actually being able to accompany a person, a family, a group, as they are traversing their grief and their loss and the death of someone that they care about, is such a privilege to be able to do that. And it's actually uplifting because, and I love how you said, Sally, the focus is on life. Really, if you think about it, death is one breath. It's one breath. There's so much leading up to it in life, and there's so much after it in life. And we work within and teach within the model called the 10 stages of living. And that was a model created by Natural Grace Holistic Funeral Directors. And on this 10-stage model, death is about number 6 because there's so much comes before it and so much after it.
In Western society, we have sort of set ourselves up in a way that we you know, there are rituals and stuff which help people. I get that, yeah. But a lot of people struggle with that journey, don't they? With the process of grief, and sometimes if they are not working within a structure like a religious or some other structure that helps them with the process, they can really flail, can't they? They can flounder.
Yeah, I have to say that I've seen people who have some faith-based relationship, and I don't particularly mean religious. It might be a spiritual faith. It might be faith in human nature. It might be faith in that the sun comes up and the sun goes down. You know, it can be faith in anything. I've generally see that people who have some faith in something, maybe it's faith in their family, faith in their dog, tend to travel a little easier on the road. That being said, grief to me is one of the great levelers. And unfortunately, I think here in the West, we tend to, she'll be right, mate. We tend to sit on it way too quickly because I see real grief, especially of a primary relationship, you know, a parent or a child or a partner, life partner, an animal actually too, can bring a deep grief that goes for some years to actually truly integrate it. Because grief's not something you ever get over. Grief is something you learn to live within, I think. It changes our fabric. It really changes how we're made up. And I think it's one of our greatest teachers, albeit painful.
Speaking as someone who's recently gone through this, it is a fact of life that if you're privileged enough to have other people in your life, or as you've said, whether they be a companion animal, or if you have a relationship with something and it brings you joy, it brings you love. It's just part of it that sooner or later you're going to have to grieve the loss of that, aren't you?
It's really the truth. That I talk about a lot how, again, particularly in the West, we live like it's life versus death. But in reality, death is not the opposite of life. Death is the opposite of birth. And birth and death are both parts of a full life. So if we get born, we are going to die.
That's right.
And that's just the reality. Death is not the opposite of life. Death is the opposite of birth. And birth and death are both parts of a full life. So if we get born, we are going to die.
That's right.
And that's just the reality.
And there are lovely old sayings about this. Nobody's getting out of this alive.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other one, people talk about, the only things you can't avoid are death and taxes. Well, let's call BS on that, because so many people avoid tax. Let's get true.
But there is a satisfaction in knowing they're not avoiding death.
Exactly, yeah. And that's why I'm such an advocate for planning.
Yes.
For having conversations with the people that you care about and that care about you. And what do you want? And what would you like? And have you thought about that? And can we talk about that? Having those conversations, because so much of the pain that I see at end of life is when conversations have not been had. It's what I call avoidable pain. We could have had a conversation about what you wanted to have after your death, where you wanted to rest. Did you want to be buried or cremated? We could have had a conversation about what if you got an illness that you weren't going to recover from, but you weren't going to imminently die. Where would you want to be cared for? How would you want to be cared for? Who do you want around you? Who don't you want around you? Like, all of these things are critical to have those conversations now with the people we care about, because it's a way of preventing avoidable pain.
That's really smart. So you're here in the Riverina at the moment.
I am. I love it.
Talking about this. What are you doing? Who are you speaking to?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I was raised 60 miles out of Hay, near Oxley. I was.
Oh, my
On
Lord.
the banks of the Murrumbidgee. So this is, we crossed the Murrumbidgee yesterday. I'm back in Kid Happy City, right? My company, Preparing the Way, we're working in partnership with Carer Gateway. And Carer Gateway are a national program that are all for caregivers, providing free support, resources to caregivers. And they do amazing work. They've got coaches, free coaching. They do amazing big lunches where they get together with speakers. And what I'm doing, we've developed a series of workshops for caregivers in the region. So today I'm delivering here in Wagga. Yesterday we were in Griffith, and last week we were in Dubbo and we were in Broken Hill. Next week we're Orange and Bathurst. So we're delivering these workshops to caregivers, really about advanced care planning, about what happens as we die. So to really create education and understanding so people realise they've got more choice than they may know about. And then we'll be back next month. And what we'll be doing in the next one is talking about, well, what happens after death? What are our choices, really? A lot of people don't know that you can, for example, you can take care of your person at home after they're deceased and care for them yourself with support. That there's so many more options, that there's beautiful wicker coffins now. There's cardboard. Like, there's all these different things now. There's natural burial, more sustainable and holistic things. And, it's about finding out what's important to people, what are their values, and letting people know you've got choice. Yeah.
So if people want to find out more about this, I'm thinking you guys are somewhere online and people can tap into it.
People can go to Carer Gateway, and if you did Carer Gateway Wagga, for example, or your town, and it will actually bring up the office closest to you, and there's a 1-800 number that people can ring, because people do need to register for these events. They go for 2.5 to 3 hours. We provide a lunch. And people come along. It's free, but people do need to register so we can make sure we've got enough sandwiches and stuff for people.
Because the sandwiches are the most important.
Right, and the cakes. Oh, my goodness me.
You must get an enormous amount of satisfaction out of the work you're doing.
Honestly, this to me, it feels like my heart's life work.
Yeah.
You know, I actually was having a quiet moment this morning with my morning cup of tea, and I was just thinking about, you know, I've been a long-term caregiver. I took care of my mum for 7 years while she journeyed dementia. I lived at home, and I lived at home with my dad for the last 2 months of his life, and he died at home in my arms. And I've had the privilege of working now with hundreds of people and being present a lot with death. And it's the most, it's going to be a weird word to say, but it's the most generous work. And I don't mean, I mean, I receive so much from it is what I mean. It's really a remarkable privilege and gift, as we spoke about before, to do this work. And it's so heart-filling, you know, to be able to look in someone's eyes when you can see the pain. And at the moment I'm looking in caregivers' eyes as I'm leading these workshops. And I've been a long-term caregiver. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's so underrated and so misunderstood and underestimated, what it takes and the loss that goes with it. Loss of financial, loss of social, loss of relationship, loss of friendships, loss of opportunity to have a holiday, just loss of freedom. It's endless. And we do work on that in the workshop I'm doing today. And, you know, to me, to be able to look in a caregiver's eyes and see them and to say, I see you and I feel and understand, you know, my version of what you're going through, because everyone's individual.